I tried to honor her with all the colors.
Wow.
Yes, we did. I've seen all the writing. I was watching this. My no, it's not. More dishwater bonds. I didn't describe it.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was all right. Show up here. Yeah. I was actually on the phone. Well, this is.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, they are 50. That's for unfortunately, it was yesterday. Now, what about this? Is it right for this?
I have no idea.
They brought it in.
Yeah, oh, it's close, yeah.
Yeah, sure. That somebody brought it in and what the.
That's part of the stuff that's brought in.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Yeah, that, I'm not.
Oh, there she is.
Let me get my phone chamber and figure that out. Take just a second. Want to sit here? Oh, hello. Okay.
Okay.
This is last picture. I have some more. Set up. No. Well, other memorial here, I guess for maybe what a kid. I'm the person. My phone number. Or I would like yours. Story. Or do you want me to sign my phone number about me? Still these stuff I found last. I wouldn't say that. No, that would look some of that. Fun. Okay. Yeah, you can actually play. I think one of the why that's wrong. You have a cold? She's saying it's going up. And in fact, okay, so this critical time series. Yeah. We had yeah.
First, we gotta figure out what it is.
I think we're. Oh gosh, I can't even hear that song without remembering that. He is her actually like starting speaking and recorded that. We did a couple of those songs, so we have that. That's been our family. You ever know where it came from?
And my son singing it, it is like, that he's singing it back.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'll be it's not much. That's my world there. Yeah, I also frequently have church. It's where we're down the bishop. Yeah, she. Yeah.
I don't currently.
And she only comes. I wish I could have seen her at the funeral. I'm sorry. Oh, you are. Yeah. Bless her heart. Kind of brought testimony to me when she was talking about surveys. Really powerful. It is. I went to what you have.
Okay, so this is her blanket.
That grandpa, he shared that your dad.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So it's not really. My mom, she will have her. And no one will remember.
Right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready for the wait.
It's already on.
Oh, it's already.
Yeah, you're good. Where are you?
Yeah, oh yeah. It's lost. It's what every day for us all. Everybody. I'm doing everything. Oh, I'm sitting in very I'm looking at that. No, it's. Hey, all beautiful people, beautiful friends and family members, loved ones who are coming out today to celebrate the life of my mom, Candice, Hight, Dobbs. It's so good to see all of you and appreciate the love that I have for all of you and the love that there is for all of us, the love that we share and to give and receive. That's like what my focus is I'm so grateful for all the love that my mom shared with all of us and all the love you shared with her. She had so much love in her life and so much love to give. And all I could think of her last couple hours was thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being my mom, for being a good teacher and a friend, and so many more things to everyone. She had a huge giving heart, and I loved her sense of humor, and I loved what we had, all our phases and stages of growth through our relationship that we had together. And I feel very happy for her that she's with her loved ones and she's so joyful and living in bliss now. And I am sad that she did have to experience and go through so much pain and suffering and anguish. But yeah, she was a strong lady, and she did. I don't know of anyone who loved to give more. That was one of her languages of love, is giving. She loved to give. And the fun things that I really appreciated hearing was at her memorial service earlier today, was the car trips. She used to buy cars on eBay like people would buy toilet paper. It's like such a fun challenge for her to go find a deal and then to go on a little trip, bring a friend or a family member, and then drive back with a car and then turn around and sell it, make some money, and then do it again. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that I got to experience one of those trips with her, but it was an interesting character building experience because it was in July when I was in my early 30s. I was a single mom and I was trying to figure my stuff out, and mom asked me if I wanted to go with her. And I said, sure, that sounds like fun. And I'm so glad that we had that time together. We went out to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, to buy a silver PT Cruiser, and there's a picture over here that I'm so glad that my daughter took. And it's a candid picture. We were sitting in the car. This was after we'd gotten back. And the funny thing about it was that we didn't know it did not have air conditioning. So it was in the middle of summer. We were driving back home, and oh man, it was a good trip though. So yeah, she just loved to do those things, find deals. And another fun thing was that she helped us find jobs. She was good at that too. And so our little furry friends, we had a dog with us for 15 years, and she just passed away last year. And Mom had helped her, and helped us find her, and yeah, so I was just, yeah, one of the cute things Mom did was she would connect people with things that she knew they'd need, and she'd send me love. And so I do want to open up the mic to anybody who wants to share stories and love and memories. And honor my mom's memory. So thank y'all for coming. I love you.
Hi, my friends. You're in for a very dangerous experience, it would be. But I'd like to start out my thoughts by saying that I was raised as a Catholic by non-church-going Protestant parents in a Jewish neighborhood. And then I got a degree in philosophy, so you're in for trouble. Anyway, but during the World's Fair that was in New York, my parents and me visited every single religious pavilion. And my dad signed up for missionaries of the Mormon conversion. So, and then a year later, when the missionaries came, we converted. And in retrospect, I appreciated the love from the missionaries and the loving people in Regal Park Wall in Queens, where I'm at Candice. And in retrospect, I also appreciated the universalistic element in Mormonism, that there was no flaming hell. I never liked the flaming hell, but God is better than me, so I can't see him creating one. So, no flaming hell, and only a few people go to outer darkness. Like me, but I'm joking. So, it was a very loving environment, and I met Candice, and she came from a very different background of pioneer heritage, and her father worked at first high and finance, rather than accounting. And she modeled herself on her father, and she respected her father and absorbed her father's values and his love for the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. And also, music was an early part of her life. And she was, my first sight of her, I remember, well, I remember about this time before I didn't really measure. She heard conduct a choir, a primary children. And I was impressed. They were all over the balance and to sing. And they got the tones right, and they were enthusiastic and happy. So that impressed me. And talked to her little primary children or something. Anyway, before my conversion, I was Catholic with Protestant parents. And finding problems for me on that church, I read vanity about Christianity and explored the worlds and all kinds of things. So that contrasts with the Candice background, and I would have different thoughts. So I loved Candice deeply, and we were joyously in love and happy for many of the years we were married, and fortunately nearly 19. But our love was disrupted by a divorce, which caused anguish among the kids and me, and for her too. I know she had a hard time with me. So I'm grateful. I have now been remarried for 30 years, and I'm grateful to Cynthia for giving me the space to mourn as I do for Candy. When we first got married, she allowed me, everything we did reminded me of Candy. So she allowed me space to grieve. I salute her for that. And she accepts my mourning now. And I'm happy and grateful for her assistance. As you can tell, I suffered a brain injury in 2008 when I was rendered and had a cerebral hematoma. That was after the divorce, well after the divorce. So you won't get as many hot jokes from me now, but I tried my best. So before I even met Candy, I remember my mom coming home from church. I was not going to church at that time. And she said, "We found the perfect girl for you today." And this was Candy. Well, I was looking. I was going to college at night. And so my dad endorsed her too, and tried to sell me to her without my knowledge. And well, seeing is believing, and I wanted to know Candy better when I saw her in church and conducting. So I bought a car because I wanted to take Candy, but I would normally take the subway and buses of New York, but it was too distant and too complicated to do that. So this car comes in later too. So we got to know each other, and then I wanted to take her to the Palmyra pageant that you used to do every year in July. And I called her and she had said another person from the youth group we belonged to had asked her, and she felt obligated. So that's where my aggression came in. And I actually called the person's car that she was going with. And he wanted to know if I was more serious than he was. And I salute him for his flexibility because he agreed with me that I was more serious. So I've got to drive Candy to the Palmyra pageant. As time passed, Candy was called in the mission area. You all know that from the obituary. And we Kansas, Missouri, in June of 1971, and she was released in 1972. And she called me on the phone and said, "I will not be coming back and living in New York." And I was frustrated about that because I expected to see her back. And she said, "You should come out to see me." So that's when the car comes in again. I sold my car. And my next door neighbor, I was taking the bus. I'm planning on taking the bus to Salt Lake City. My next door neighbor said, No, man, this is not the course for true love. He lent me the money to fly. So we were married in March of, actually yesterday was the anniversary of that, March 24th, and the early 70s. And then we moved quickly to Virginia Beach because I had been there to Virginia Beach often on vacations. And then I said one day, well, let's try Utah. So I'm here. So when she was in Farmington, again, she gave birth to Vicky and Jenny in 1975. And it was a complicated birth, and she was given a C-section with 2 cots. And so she never healed properly. And then she had to stay with her mother, who was packing her abdomen with antibiotics. And then eventually it was time for her to get the operation closed. And then one night, I did something I don't usually do on my dreams. Somehow or other, in my dreams, I hit her right in the abdomen in my dreams, and I felt so bad. It turns out that she had an infection, and a cyst, full of infection, a large cyst. And I don't know if they would have checked it out properly before the closing. So we both consider it providential that I did that. I never did anything like that in my life. I was a gentle person, you can see. Anyway, so that was an experience we had shared. In 1978, Lisa was born, and we moved to Las Vegas, Fourth Ward, and we were very happy, and the bishop was a Christ-like person, and we all thrived. And she had enlisted me in many duets, and I had stage fright, and she never apparently had stage fright, but she had a knack of settling me down, so I loved doing that also. Eventually, I loved it more when I calmed down a little. So that was enriching my life. So her leg collapses, it came about in Las Vegas in 1985 to 86. And she would have a lung collapse. I saw a tool that looked like a large butcher knife inserted between her ribs to give it the tube in to start her breathing. And I would press it practically every time. And she was in excruciating pain. So in the midst of all that, she got pregnant with our last child. And when she had her last surgery on October of 1986, she knew she was pregnant, and she refused to take any pain pills, whatever. So she was courageous and very conscious of her baby's welfare. And that baby was born in 1987, and her name, we named her Jessica Joy, because it was a joy to us to see that not any digits or limbs were missing. And she was apparently a full learner. That was the lesson too. So, you know the history of, for most of her life, Candice sang notable choral groups. She sang early on as a Warren Youth Symphony, of course. He performed at various places, other than churches. And I remember singing. She was warned by the doctor in September that she shouldn't sing. And that was wise advice because she had a lung collapse in October. So, but within 3 months after the birth of Jessica, now known as Tay-Ellen, we performed in a state talent show. And we sang Angel Lullaby, and we each held Jessica in her hands while we sang. And that was a notable experience for me. It was very emotional and rewarding for me to do that. So she later sang duets with Vicky. And Vicky was a more accomplished singer than I was, and didn't have any stage fright. I wonder at that. But from an early age, I remember her performing at 9 years old, and in front of I think it was a state function, and a little boy turned around and said, "Wow, that was good." So Candy taught her well. She inherited the ability, so. Well, Candy Dobbs was Hight Dobbs was the wife of my true love. And we were joyously happy for many years. Our very unfortunate division caused anguish to us all. And later on, when I had years later, when I had my cerebral hematoma, he came to me before I could speak again and held my hand and said, "Can you ever forgive me?" And I shook my head, yes. And I had written her a letter 7 years earlier and saying if she could forgive me too. So after that time, I enjoyed, peace was made, love and happiness for all concerned. I treasured the moments after that when she sent me Facebook messages reminding me of my parents' birthdays and of funny things that had happened in New York. She shared memories with my sister and me of my parents. And my sister's Pat said, she has never treated me as anything other than a sister, which is a high tribute. And so Candy had a knack of just selecting simple gifts and sending them out and always remember the dates. And she was generous. And another thing that impressed me when I first saw her in action was that she would go to a church meeting and then she would be talking in the car to somebody she just met. And that person would be pouring their heart out to her. She was an excellent listener. And, as I said in my obituary, she made friends easily. And, I had to be DP2 to live with her. So, because my parents were DP2. So quirky and a sense of humor does make the medicine go down a lot easier. Well, at the last Christmas, she sent me a version of Candice Messiah to listen to. And she knows a lot about Handel masterwork. So I shared that with Candy. Our relationship felt good again, and I loved her deeply, and our children will miss her. I know it was her time. I know she is experiencing joyous love with her previously departed family and friends. She has returned to the home we all came from. Thank you, friends and family.
Okay, well, for starters, just a couple of quick business. These flyers up here on the piano are Candy's Christmas message to people last Christmas. She had me type it up and take it to the library and print it off. So if anybody wants to read her Christmas message from last year, because I don't think she got any out this year. And then the other thing is, she had asked me a while back if I would mend a couple of spots on this quilt that she had. But she never told me if it was like a sentimental quilt or if her mother had given it to her, where she got it from. So if any of you know where that quilt comes from, or anybody in her family wants it because they know it means something, please let me know. I wanted to finish. So I'm actually going to finish mending it while we're talking here today. And that way whoever gets it doesn't have to worry about a few holes here and there that get bigger. I met Candy in recovery for for depression and anxiety and any other things that kind of mess our lives up. And yeah, she was dippy there too. And so we all grew to love her dippiness there. And so I ended up finding out she was going to move from her, I don't know what, somehow I knew she lived in the Meadows. So I ended up being able to help her move over to the condos that she owned. And then because I had clients that I worked for a little north of her, and I'm in Bountiful, so my client was just past her a little ways. I always had to drive past, and I said, you know, if you ever need anything, stuff from the store or whatever, let me know. I'm driving right past her. I can help you if you need. And so then I got another client that was like practically right next door to her. It's like the house closest to Cedar Springs that you can get almost. And so then I was able to just kind of drive between the two clients and stop when I wanted to see if she needed anything. And of course she gave me her mailbox key so that I could stop and get her mail every day that I was going over there and take it into her. And then when she started worrying about falling, I gave her a bad time and I said, you better put your kids' names up on the wall somewhere good so that if we ever need to get a hold of them, we have it. And I said, and somebody should have a house key so that we can check on you. And so she ended up having me go make some house keys so that she could give one to Laurel and one to me so that we could check her mail and come in and check on her and take her garbage out, bring her food, some groceries sometimes, and go to the post office for her. And anyway, I just really loved her. I do have to say one thing about her listening, though. This is just kind of a comical part, is that I had, since she was so available, I liked just going over there and sitting down, because I never sit down when I'm on the go. I never watch TV, I never sit down, I'm always moving around doing something, and I get to Candice and I think, okay, I'm gonna sit down and just talk for a few minutes, let some steam off or whatever. And I says, so I come in one day kind of wanting to complain a little bit, and she almost immediately stopped me and was trying to get me to use the recovery tools so that so you don't have anxiety. I'm like, I don't want to use those. I just want to spill my guts for a few minutes. So she sometimes didn't want to listen. She wanted to fix me instead of listen to me. But so anyway, I just really loved being able to just swing in and talk to her. And some of the people that I used to talk to loved that I could swing in and talk to her too, because then I didn't bother them and talk to them so much when they had things to do. And then the other joke that Candy and I kind of had is that she was doing so much indexing, and I would go over and help fix a little bit of her plumbing and sometimes clean up some stuff and shampoo her carpets or whatever. And she would try and pay me to do some of this stuff, and I'm like, well, maybe we should just call it a trade. You can do indexing and I'll get credit for some of that, and I'll clean the house. So we'll both get our houses cleaned from me, and we'll both get our indexing done because you do it. So I get half the credit for her indexing. So anyway, and then along with that, just so you know, she's got a plaque up here that that is from the church saying how much they appreciate indexing. But I want to read this little paper that goes with it. So, okay. We would like to thank you for your service as an indexer. You are in the top 50 indexers in the nation. Thank you. So anyway, I was proud of her for that, and I know she was proud of herself, and she felt like it was really beneficial that she could stay at home, that with her illness, making her mostly sick, she got tons and tons of indexing done, so. Anyway, I think that's all I need to say, but, so, thanks, and thanks to her family for letting me be included in gathering some of her stuff up and putting it out, and for sharing in the love.
I think, like funerals and what are these called, celebrations of life are great, because we can see each other, people that we haven't seen for a few years, and remember the love of family, and, you know, this has been an emotional bump for me, because I've lost a lot of people. Not just my mom, but it's helped me to realize that it really is all about love, and what you share with others. That we're all from that great love. And sometimes it makes you sad though, like you're there and here we are, where we're still going through all the roller coaster of everything, but we have the, you know, one of the special things that we have here is God's word. And there's a scripture that really came to mind because, you know, my mom couldn't always be there for us, and I don't hold that against her. I worked for that. And when she wasn't though, my grandma stepped in bigly for me, and it made an impact for the rest of my life. And when I was in high school and I lived with her for almost a year, like she would cook for me, like, and I just felt so taken care of. But I love my mom and love her spirit, and I know she's with the great love that just forgive. And there's a scripture in Corinthians 13, verses 4-8, that says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. When I was growing up in Las Vegas, I consider that like the prime of my childhood, because by the time 7th grade rolled around, my mom set me up because she was so good at making friends. Like she would hook me up. Like by the time I was 10, I had so many babysitting jobs. I was making all kinds of money, and it's like, yes. And by the time I was 12, I was like a lunch lady making money in my junior high. And I had my junior high had a swimming club, so I was on the swimming club and everything. So my life was taken off. So then my grandpa died, and my mom misses Utah and misses family. She decides, well, my dad went along with it, got a job in Utah. So we all went to Utah when I was 13-ish. And I was like, this is awesome. Because by the time we came, you know, we're from Las Vegas, and there's snow, and there's snow sitting here in February, like the biggest snow ever. So I would go sledding, and the other teenagers would watch me go, why is she going sledding down that small hill all the time? Because I love sledding. I'd never done it before. They kind of thought I was nuts, but it's okay. I think me and Bobby and Ben even went sledding one time. It was so fun. But anyway, I consider that like kind of where the emotional turmoil started for like 4 years of just so much. I became kind of like a hermit and all this stuff. But if it hadn't been for Utah, like Utah had so much nature that whenever I was frustrated and angry, I would just go on hikes, because we live like 2 blocks away from a hiking trail. It was so good for me. And if we hadn't moved to Utah, I wouldn't have met the love of my life. Like 28, we've been going out 28 years. So anyway, so that's the really good part about being in Utah. And then I got to witness one thing really special. This is like spirit, is when my mom had consented. She was finally ready to accept our help, because I had been trying to help my mom for a good 2 years, and she wasn't ready to like allow people to step in and help her in the way that she needed help, at least with her family. And so when I stepped in and all my sisters stepped in, and we got her in a better, safer place. And I was at the the nursing home one day, because this was just before she moved in with me. She had to go to the nursing home for a few days. And I was there just before work. I was just hanging out with her for an hour. She was having a super long, intense spiritual conversation on the phone. And she was crying, and she's like, yeah, mental illness runs in our family, and I love you. And there was like hymns and scriptures going back and forth. I didn't know who it was until she hung up. She said, that was Linda. That was my sister Linda, and we just healed our relationship. And I said, God is working here. God is working through this stubborn family. It's just like healed, and it is so divine. It's so beautiful. Oh, life is too short. That was her sister, and I hated that. They just don't wait till the afterlife. Feel your wrist down. That's all I have to say. I love you all. I don't have a lot to share, but I'm her littlest sister, and I just want to follow Victoria because that's all I wanted to share. Just don't have rifts, don't have grudges, don't have anything that needs to be healed, because Candy and I, we were like that, and that's how it is a lot, and I'm not a fighter. There's fighters and there's flight, and I would always take flight. If something got too uncomfortable, I would just avoid and go like that. And a few years ago, I was on the phone with her, and I was always like Fonzie from Happy Days, where I could never say I was wrong. And I'd be like, I was and I thought that time we were on the phone, I thought I'd say, when I was a little girl, you would tell me what a spoiled brat I am. And I don't like it. And I held on to that, and I did not like it. And for years, and I'm almost 60, and I didn't like it. And all of a sudden, I had a memory before the phone call with her of me being bratty. I thought, she's right. I was wrong. I was a brat. And so I told her on the phone, I said, I just want to tell you that the times that you told me I was a spoiled brat, you were right. And she didn't remember ever saying it. And then I felt horrible that I had said that. And then her response was so beautiful, because her response was, I'm so sorry I told you that. You were never a brat. I'm really, really sorry. And I thought, wow, if I could do that with every relationship that I get to be accountable for and responsible for my actions. And so it was a turning point for me to say, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say, I get to grow. It's okay to say, I'm sorry I wronged you. I'm sorry if I avoided. I'm sorry if I hurt somebody unknowingly or knowingly. And so I just want to say that, Victoria, because it was beautiful. And if I hadn't had that, I don't think we could have been as close, because there would always be something in the way. So in this time, the last 3 years have been so dividing, and it's broken my heart to see families torn asunder. And it doesn't matter, fixed beliefs don't need to be fixed beliefs to the body. You can be love. And her daughters have shown me this. And to have Victoria open up her home to everyone that wanted to be there with Candice. And she was working 50 hours a week, and they still opened their home and said, come and show love. And so I'm so grateful to you and your sisters and to be able to be there with her. And I'm so grateful for Candice's love. Candy was careful to not let us go on and on. She was a good listener, and she was good at helping us to use videos to help. I shared a lot of examples when I would go to these recovery meetings about my husband was, marriage is hard, and had a lot of examples about marriage and, my son, and that she never, she always treated my family with love, but she could have been, oh, you did this to your mom, oh, you did this to your wife, and pulled out against her. She didn't. She loved them. Their every spot, like right. So right now, like you can be right or you can have temper, and so she was really trying to use a lot of humor and she's getting she's really doing able to all of these gifts to just help me focus on the things. My father passed away one back and so she knew what to say and to do. She just lots of lots. And she always told me so not to jokes and
My name's Mary Ann Johnson, and I'm from Grantsville, Utah, and there comes a time in life when you meet someone that feels like a fit to a puzzle, like I'm one piece and she's another. That's how I feel about Candy. And I met her decades ago in Salt Lake at a Recovery International meeting, and she just, I felt like she thought like I think, and she just knew how I feel, and I think I knew how she felt. It was just a beautiful experience, and of course that humor, it's just been charming that she had. And out where I lived in Grantsville, there were two sisters, Mary Ann and Margaret, and they had known her from the time she was on her mission in Iowa, and they told me how much they cared about her. And I also, we were at the Calvin Smith Library in Salt Lake for our meetings, and then I would come up here and I would see her here, and we'd go to lunch together, and just so fun to watch her interact with complete strangers, young, old. It was as if she knew she was their very best friend, and they felt it too. And I'm just so grateful for her. And we have a tool in our recovery, humor's your best friend, temper's your worst enemy, and she lived that. I love you, Candy. I'm Bobby, I'm Candy's niece. A lot of stories have been shared today. Some I knew, some I didn't. I do remember tubing and sledding down the hills. I remember one time we really had a toboggan that went wrong, and how it didn't kill us all, I don't know. My brother Ben, who's here today, almost got decapitated in that accident. I grew up in Farmington, not having cousins my age. So when the Dobbs family came to town, it was a holiday. Usually it typically was a holiday, but it was really a holiday because I finally had cousins to play with. And so I spent most of my childhood, if they came out, with them. And so most of my childhood memories are with my cousins. But there were some times with Candy, more in my older years, that I do remember. One thing that has not been mentioned today is she could be competitive. Whenever my cousin Lisa and I would go to Candy's house, she and I would play Dr. Mario. And to this day, I've never beaten her. I was always determined I was going to, never happened. She would play with me for as long as we were there. I think sometimes we drove Lisa crazy because Lisa was ready to go and we were still playing. So she could be very competitive in that. And I'd never known her to be. So that was an experience that I will always remember. And I don't know that I could ever play Dr. Mario with somebody else again without remembering her. There was a trip we took once, just she and I. She was driving halfway up to her sister Karen's house in Idaho. We were meeting Karen halfway, and I don't even know why, but it was just me and her in the car. And I remember me being the person that I was. I liked to ask questions that were totally out of place and totally, maybe why on earth would you ask that? And I remember asking her a question that led to a conversation, and I really learned a lot about her that afternoon from just that question and that conversation. And I won't, it was a very private conversation, so I won't go into what we talked about, but I just remember instead of her being totally upset or totally
floored by the question that I asked her, she went ahead and we talked. I don't even think her daughters know about that. Another experience that I do remember Candy always singing. I remember a particular time when she sang us, I grew up with hearing the soundtrack of My Turn on Earth. And I remember the day that Candy sang Eternity Is You, and that was my favorite song from that soundtrack. And I remember just loving hearing her sing that. So that's another memory. And my memory that I didn't even think of until I was sitting down today is Candy and I share a rare experience. When my grandmother passed, she and I, and this experience is in silence. When my grandmother passed, hours before she passed, Candy and I were in the room, and no words were spoken. We just sat there and held hands. I held her hand, she held mine, as we watched my grandmother passing into the next life. I wasn't in the room when my grandmother passed, but I was there a few hours, or I was there with her minutes before she did. And the day that Candy passed, I got to go up and see her. And I held Jenny's hand while Jenny watched her mother passing. Thank you, Vicki, for holding your close so that we could do that. But up until today, I had not thought at that moment that I was with her when her mother passed, and I was with her hours before she did. And no words were spoken on either of those days, but a very strong spirit was there and a very precious moment between me and my aunt. And I do love her. She's never missed a birthday of mine. She's mailed me a card every year. And I love her daughter so much.
My name is Maggie Shade. I first met Candy in March of 1971 back in New York when I first came to Rego Park Ward, like you mentioned. I remember very well the very first Sunday that I came, and this girl was from Brazil, who was introducing me to the ward. One thing that she said, which kind of surprised me, she pointed to Candy and she said, she is the kindest person here. And I said, oh, who is she? She said, her name is Candy. She is so good. And with the time, we became housemates, roommates. And we lived in the same home for a while. And we became very, very good friends. It just so happened that after that, she decided to go on her mission. Her calling was to Kansas City, Kansas mission. And I decided to go back home to Brazil, where I'm from originally, to my sister's wedding and to be with my family again. And she went her way for a little bit, and then I went my way. But it just so happened that I had been seriously dating this person for a long time. Because of the Vietnam War, we're not able to be together. So he was serving his military duties in Hawaii. And 3 years later, when we decided to really get married, I found out that Candy was back from her mission, and then she was getting married on March 24th, like Phil said, of 1973, and I was getting married on March 20th of 1973 in California. So we could not attend each other's wedding. And after that, we went back to Honolulu so that my husband could finish his military duties. And then I found out that Candy and Bill were moving back to Utah. After we were done, a year and a half later, with a new baby, we came back to the mainland, and we decided to go back to BYU to finish our degrees. And then by then, we were able to meet each other again, which was a good thing. And through the years, with the schooling, with the work and our careers and all that, we went our separate ways. But we always kept in contact with each other. We always wrote to each other and we always called each other. And I always called her sis. She was the sister that I had here in the United States. My whole family is from Brazil. So even though I had 7 sisters, she was my sister here in the States. So whenever we called each other, we would say, "Hey sis, how you doing? What are you doing today?" And so she has not only been a good friend for all these years, but she was also my sister. And through all the ups and downs of our lives, and going through many of our school of hard knocks, and many joyful times, we were always in knowing what the other person was doing. And one time my husband said, "How can you have a friend for this long? It is inconceivable to me that you can be friends for this long." And by then we were friends for like 40 years. And I said, "Well, I guess it is hard for you to know because my husband was not a social person. He really didn't have a friend per se. And I was always very, very social. And I said, if you knew Candy, you would know that it's not an impossible thing to be friends with her for so long. And I know that she has touched many, many lives. She was well liked by many people. And so when she called me this year, she said, "Maggie, I'm going to Intermountain in Austin and be there for a while, and then I'm going to Vicky's." I said, "What's happening?" He said, "I'm having so much problems with my kidneys and many other things, but I need to go. I'm going to be there in the hospice." And I was totally shocked. I said, "You're going to the hospice?" My daughter worked in the hospice at Intermountain, so as a nurse. And I said, "Are you going to the..." And she said, "Yeah, I need to go." And she said, "I don't know how long I'm going to be there, but I'm going to Vicky eventually. I don't know if my phone is going to be working. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not sure when we'll be getting in contact with each other." I said, "Make sure you call me when you get to Vicky." She said, "Well, we'll see." And there was the very rapid conversation we had with each other. My mother-in-law, who lives in Kona, in Hawaii, had fallen. She's 97, and she had fallen down outside the home. And she was not able to get up for 9 hours. and she got injured real bad. So my husband went to Kona to be with her and help her. And so when I was there, I kept thinking, why didn't she call me? You know, what's taking so long? And I had no idea that she had passed already. And I was just waiting for the phone call. And so one day I thought, as busy as we were caring for our mother-in-law, I said, I thought, well, I need to check this somehow. And I went to her Facebook and I thought maybe she still has her Facebook. And then I saw the announcement from Lisa saying that she had passed away. And that was quite a shock to me. And I was just waiting for the phone call to come. Guess what? Then passed away. And so I wrote something there on Facebook, and when we returned, I read that she has been cremated already. And that she was going to have the memorial service. So after we returned, my husband had to go back again to Kona in 2 weeks. So I told him, I said, you know what, you go and I'm staying. I need to stay. I need to speak for this memorial service. And so I made sure that I would wait for this day, and I'm glad I came. The hardest thing for me was that after 40 years of marriage, my husband decided to have a different lifestyle. And he decided to leave the family. And that was the hardest thing in my life. I never understood that a person could go through so much turmoil and so much emotional pain, which is very, very painful physically as well. And through that time, Candy was of so much support to me. And because I was the one who was the last, and I always worked since our last child, our 5th child, started kindergarten. I worked in the educational field, and so I started working, and for the last 10 years, he decided he wasn't going to work anymore. And so I was working in corporate world at that time for the last 10 years. And then when that happened, it was the most difficult thing for me. We had 5 children, we had grandchildren. And I thought, how can this be? And so, because all the money that I was making, he was the one who was administering them and disbursing every cent that I never saw as he saw it fit. So I had no idea what to do because I never sold or bought any of our properties. And he was the one who did it all. And so when he decided to leave, I just did not know what to do. I felt totally lost. And so my son, who lives in Mapleton, said, Mom, if you move to Utah, I will help you. I'll help you with your finances. I'll help you with your investment. I'll help you with the portfolio. Just come to Utah. And I really didn't want to leave Oregon. I had been in the same ward for 26 years. My kids had grown up there. I knew everybody in the area. I still had my job. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to come. And then Candice said, hey, sis, come to Utah. Move to Utah. If you come here to Utah, we'll do things together. We'll go places together. Just come. And she said, just take Austin's offer and my offer and come to Utah. And so I thought, okay, that sounds good. So I sold my home for the first time. My nice, beautiful home. And I got everything organized, and by then my company was getting bought by a company, major company in California. So I decided to come anyways. And coming here was quite an adjustment. It was a huge adjustment after being in Oregon for 30 years. But I got a lot of support from my family, from my children, from Candice. And it was possible to adapt myself here. Like someone said, she never forgot anybody's birthday. She never forgot anything special that we had in our lives. She was so giving. And just like my friend said in New York, she's the kindest person here. And I totally appreciate all the friendship and sisterhood and everything that she was there for me. One thing that I admired so much about Candy was that despite all the challenges that she had, she never lost faith in our Father in heaven. She never lost the trust and the belief she had in the gospel. She was so dedicated to church. She was a great example to me. I loved her for that. And I know that someday, when I go to the other side, she'll be there. You'll be there, waiting. I am so grateful for the gospel in my life. It has given me the foundation to believe in the plan of salvation. I am so grateful for my Savior that gives me hope to see my loved one when I live this life. I'm grateful for her family. She had a wonderful family. And she loved you guys very much. In Jesus Christ. Amen.
Say a couple quick words. I do remember the toboggan ride, the ride, and I have yet to be on one since. So it was an instant crash. I'm pretty sure we broke the toboggan, if I remember right. We probably could have put a good dent in the tree, and we all instantly just went to instant laughter. It was like the funniest thing ever. So early memories of Candy. You kind of as kids, we all have our memories of kids and Christmas singing at the funeral, you know, the Christmas parties and all that. And when you're kind of young cousins, you're in a group. And as I get older, with older siblings, as I was getting older as well, it's been really good to get on an individual level of each family member as well. And some are close by, others aren't. with Candy, and it's kind of funny with a lot of my relationships with people in the family, it's usually like the same thing happens all the time. I even remember with grandma, as people get worried about the elderly, does she seem okay? It's like, every time I go there, it'd be like, she'd tell me, hey, sweetie, when are you taking me on our date and stuff? I'd be like, I don't know, when do you want me to go? You know, but we never missed a beat, and Candy was the same way with a lot of our joking around and all that. And I was thinking at the dinner, I had braces when she worked at Dr. Knowles, so it was go in, hey, I get to see Candy today, and we joke and joke and joke. Then I'd go in and they tighten the braces, and I'd be in pain coming out. She'd be like, so when are we gonna get you back here again? And I'm like, no, like kick that, I'm down, they kick that forward. She's like, maybe next week, you know. So she was always joking that way. So her personality was always something we would always do. And just as I was driving to see her before she passed, before she went to Victoria's, I was kind of in a mode of like, okay, this might be it, maybe it's not. I'm at least glad I'm gonna go see her real quick. And I get there and I'm thinking of having like maybe some serious deep debate, and we get in there, and her roommate was like, hey, sweetie, someone's here to see you. And Candy's like, oh, she sees that it's me. And then her roommate's turning the volume on the TV up, and I'm like sitting on Candy's bed like, look, this is the last time I might talk to my aunt, but I didn't want to be rude. But it's like, I can't hear her talk, but then she can't hear me talk either. So she's like, sweetie, can you turn it down? And she did. I'm like, okay. So as I was trying to maybe see how deep talk is talking, she would just joke, 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 and then it was, so it's like, okay, so we did that. And on the way out, she made some pretty good jokes. Yeah, I'll just come and haunt you, don't worry about it, you know. And don't tell everybody how good I look. And so I was like, so I left, and I kind of pondered as I left on, I guess me and her didn't need to seriously have a afterlife talk to talk. She can have those with other people. Our thing is about enjoying each other's company, having a good time. And it was always funny because she'd just kick off all these jokes, and it's just like my brain would always go blank. Why are those good jokes? It's like I can't keep up and all that. So so it was a really nice moment just to be like, that was our connection we had, was enjoying each other's company, nothing needing to be discussed and all that. And so it was really, I left it feeling really good, and she left it feeling really good and all that. And I do love family, you know, as we've all talked quirky and all that, but everybody has a special place in my heart. It's great when I can see you the times that I can and connect. And I do second what Victoria and Shelley were saying, with we've definitely had strong personalities in the family that have made situations get to where it can be really hard to deal with. And I saw a lot of that. And so I kind of just made it my thing to, I want to try my best to not have those grudges and keep things just love. And then this family has so much love to give. So when you see two disputing against a dumb situation, a big situation, whatever it is, it's good to see them patch it up. Like that thing with Mom and Candy was amazing. So yeah, so I also agree. It's like life, let's love each other and enjoy each other in this life, and then afterlife is just the party continues. You know, don't waste, just as much as they say don't waste, you know, life, I say, you know, do that. So so I'm gonna play this song. I've done this at a lot of funerals. It's basically a song I wrote when one of our younger our group of friends in Farmington had one of their younger brothers pass away, pretty unexpected. So we wrote this song in his honor, and it's kind of based off of things that remind you people, and in this situation, it was, he wrote a lot of the lyrics, so we kind of took some of his words, but it's basically, if you see a shooting star, that's somebody that's passed away saying hi, so, kind of making a visual connection and all that. So this song is called, Star Seeker, and, so, yeah. I can't keep up. Been killing my feet. I'm not fashion. Which way you pretend? Guess we'll find out. Pretty soon you'll know what it's all about. Said we be together to the end of time. Now you're on a journey that's hard to find. That's okay. I know you come back here. How many tears can we cry? How many times we ask why? Always aim for the sky. So that's it from the line. There is no stop, and there you are. What to do with this pain? I'm feeling now, 'cause it's almost too hard. Feeling so high. If you tell me it'll be okay, keep on going. Each and every day. But I know you'll be watching me. Right there for me, I'll be there for you. Think of the memories that I made with you when you were around us. Found a way to break through. And there's so much stuff for you. Never know you tonight. We won't start tonight. If I could go there, leave this world behind. Take all my love, while we've been tonight.
heard a lot from me today already. As I was gathering my thoughts, I realized really quick, you know, 5 to 10 minute talk, you can't cover much, you know, it's hard. And I was, I guess, debating a little bit. I think Victoria here, you know, I can speak to the other side of the scenario. So it's chance to have it. You know, I was at my mom's and we were having a, you know, kind of a casual conversation, and I went more deep as I usually does with my mom. And you know, there's a lot of similarities between these two women. And maybe that's where some of the conflict occurred and the messiness, I guess. And in that conversation, nothing came up about Candy. That wasn't what happened, but my mom wasn't aware that you could put scriptures on your phone. And so I, in a matter of seconds, did that for her. And she had been a lot, her eyesight's really going bad. And she can't read a book. She just really missed the scriptures. And you know, this all kind of occurs a few weeks before she was reading the Book of Mormon. She realized I have a parallel situation with my brother. So my older brother was, there's no other way to put it, but he was a bully. Took out a lot of his anger on me. For years I resented him, and you know, in that case, I think, you know, after hearing a little bit about Candy and my mom's situation, the stuff with my brother was real. I mean, he did some bad things, and I didn't think I could ever forgive him, and I treated him like the black sheep of the family. As a result, maybe rightfully so. There was enough stuff. But my brother and Candy both extended olive branches. And I didn't recognize them. So my brother would call. And he would say, Chris, starting a new family and have these two boys. And I just want to tell you, take pictures. The kids are going to grow up so fast. And then he would say, I live in this place. Come and visit me. And I'm like, yeah, someday I'll come visit you. Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. You know, it's like, man, you are the last person I'm going to go and visit, kind of thing. But he would just keep calling me, you know, and Candy would come and try to give a gift to my mom or something like that, right? And resentments are hard. It's messy. It is downright messy. And sometimes you need a catalyst to figure it out. And so I had something that caused me to look within, and as Shelley mentioned, take accountability. And I realized that my brother was trying to express love to me. And because of the position I've been taking, I was keeping love from being loved. And so I called him out of the blue, and I just told him, I'm sorry for pushing you away. And that proceeded into a series of conversations. It was crazy, especially the first interaction with you, like, oh yeah, but I did this to you, and I did that to you, and I was like, yeah, I remember that. That's kind of painful, you know. And then I said, you know, but I remember that I was doing something to you which led to you beating the crap out of me. And so I had some part in that. And that was back when we were kids. And that's what I kept saying is, that was then. And now, let's work it out. Let's do it. And so after the phone call was about over, he says, well, come and see me, Glenn, but And so I did. Took off a week, and we went and spent a week with my brother. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody consume that much alcohol in one moment, right? But it was messy. It was flat out messy. But we got through it, right? And from that point on, like the next year, when we went out to see my dad in Colorado, and we stopped from the front end, back into that trip. Cliff and I, it was so much better, right? Because we had gotten so many ugly boulders out of our backpacks that we've been carrying around for years already. And the heaviness of the past was removed. And we began a great relationship. And our conversations from that point on, they weren't perfect. Remember him calling, I hate mom, you know, and so like that. But she was really good about the food storage thing, and I'm doing that. And he's laughing, you know, kind of thing. But so when my brother passed away, I was so grateful. That's probably the most grateful thing I experienced, because I didn't have any more regrets with him, right? I'd gone through the battle. I'd recognized my part in it, and recognized that in his feeble manner, he was trying to say, please forgive me, but he didn't know how to articulate it until I opened up the conversation. And I think that's what happened with my mom and Candice. They had some early childhood things, and all do, right? Who doesn't? And some of us, for some reason, are just gifted to not hold on to it and let it fester and let it get infected and let it get into something out of control, right? I'm so grateful that they did that. It is such a blessing to my mom, right? Because Candy passed away, her sister passed away, and now she knows that she made the phone call, right? If she would have done that 10 years ago, I'm so grateful that she did. I was trying to figure out how to get that into the 5 to 8 minutes earlier today. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, Victoria, for you sharing that. Because relationships are tough, but they're worth it. They're a battle. Love is a sledgehammer sometimes, but it can equally be something beautiful. I'm grateful. I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful for having a small part in this moment to share the love here and be with family again. And right before COVID, we had Shelly over at our house and be like, we're having a Hight family reunion, not knowing that COVID would just like destroy that whole idea. So we never really got it out to the family, but I'm gonna open that up again. I would like to get the cousins together, do something. Let's do something casual, no serious huge thing, but and I also appreciate Ben's thing, the one-on-ones are good, get to know each other better. So I appreciate this opportunity. I love my Aunt Candy. She was very dear to me. She was a special person in our family. We will miss her tremendously. And I do look forward to being with her in the next life. I hope she gives Grandpa a big hug, and Grandma too. I didn't even mention Grandma earlier, but what a silly hoot she was. And such a great person as well. But I say these things in Jesus Christ.
Thank you all for sharing your love, your time, your presence here today, and sharing all of the love that you are with everyone that you do love. And thank you, like your love makes a difference, and your love is needed here, and that is what we need. We have it, abundant love to share and give and be. So thank you all, and yeah, take good care of yourselves and keep in touch with us, and yeah, let's remember the time that we have together is a priceless gift. And it is all about love, and if we can focus on that and remember that, then there will be peace within and peace without. Thank you guys, I love you, and family is so important to me. So it's so good to be together. Thank you.
Oh. So are we doing this thing in together? Okay.
Yeah,
I won't have to track you out like.
Shouldn't have your calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get, we got kind of a musical, like talent. Bring instruments.
Yeah.
Something out of bring. We would offer.
Yeah.
That's very dangerous.
I always find it. About it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking.
Yeah, Sarah. The third in Arizona, where is Angela?
Angela is.
He was in there for a while, but I think there. I just lost.
Parents running for so long, the last time, basically she was starting to work.
Oh, how nice.
That's from the last thing they said.
Yeah. I've almost seen it as a Christmas pot green. I'd like to go into some place where there's ivy down, lots of local or.
Yeah, but there's no more cooking there. They got rid of the camping.
Oh, is it all?
Yeah.
Do they still have like a pavilion though, of sorts, or? I can look into that.
Oh, that's one of my sweet spots.
Okay.
Not, no.